Welcome to Optimize Your Success. I am Jack Scott, the Chief Operations Officer at the Mentor Project, and I'm excited to introduce your host and a mentor at the Mentor Project, Dr. Ruth Gotian. Dr. Gotian is an expert in the field of high performers. Each week, she uses a live panel filled with high performers to discuss different topics while posing challenging questions to each of the panelists. You are able to hear from each of these panelists about their challenges. You will learn how they overcame these challenges so they could excel and reach high achievement within their life. This is a podcast you don't want to miss. We're excited you're here with us today. Welcome to Optimizing Your Success.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Ruth Gotian, and welcome once again to another week of the Mentor Project's Optimizing Success. I am so excited to have everybody. And once again, we have incredible guests, including one who has pulled yet another all-nighter, like he's back in college, to be with us again from the other side of the pond. So we're having some people coming in and out, but I wanted to continue the discussion that we were having last week about developing and building relationships, what is very commonly known as networking. But the networking sounds kind of slimy, and we're more about developing relationships and developing relationships over time. And I think this really struck a chord with a lot of people because we've been getting a lot of feedback from people and a lot of communication, so much that we just had to continue the conversation. Now, just yesterday, I got a text from a colleague at another institution saying she's putting some contests together. She needs some judges. She needs some speakers who fit these criteria. Do I know of anyone? And I was able to give her a list of half a dozen people. And she said, well, how do you know these people? I said, well, these are relationships that have literally developed over time. And these are people who I have known, that I've met at some very interesting places, because for me, it's all about finding interesting people, finding people from different industries, connecting with people, even connecting with my competitors, one who was here before, and I'm hoping she's able to log back on. And it's about building that trust and being kind and developing that relationship. And I think after you have that foundation, you have to give more than you ever receive. And once you can do that and build a relationship, it flows. And the reason so many of us, most of us know each other, it's all through these relationships that have been built and have grown over time. And maybe we can tell you a little bit about how they have grown over time. So I'm hoping everyone can introduce themselves, and these are really high achievers and people who have worked with high achievers. And I'm hoping we can just have this conversation, explain how we all know each other, what we are known for, what we're trying to do. And I'm going to call you out again the way I see you on my screen, starting with our favorite government attorney, Bradford Kane. Can't hear you, Brad.
Now I'm not muted.
Now you're not muted.
Greetings. Pleasure to be here. My name is Bradford Kane. These days I am the author of a book, and this time it's actually in book form. Yes, it's not just a cardboard cutout. There are actually pages called Pitchfork Populism, 10 Political Forces that Shaped an Election and Continue to Change America. It stems from my background, which is mostly in government, but also in the private sector, nonprofit sector. But I worked in Congress and in California state government, a number of things like that. And now obviously very focused on where America is and where America is going. The book also deals with the future.
Thank you, Brad. And Brad and I met at a conference, which is where a lot of us have met each other, the same conference. Janice, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Janice Lentz. I am the CEO of Hearing Access and Innovations, and I work to help make the world accessible for people with hearing loss. And behind me is a New York City taxi that I helped to bring the induction loop technology in taxis, and I actually brought this from England to the United States. The technology was here, but not in taxis. And I'm also a traveler who's traveling to every country in the world, and I've been to 194 countries, territories, and unrecognized nations.
How many interesting people have you met along the way?
I find everybody interesting. I mean, literally the taxi project happened from my taxi driver in London who was explaining the technology. I never saw it before. And we had this entire conversation about how he could continue working because of the technology. And if I hadn't spoken to my taxi driver, I would have never known about it, and I would have never brought it. So I find everybody interesting. As long as you have a story and you're nice, I'm happy.
And you're kind. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. Donna Griffin. We can't hear you.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Dana Griffin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Eldera. We built a platform, an intergenerational platform that connects vetted mentors who are at least 60 years young with kids virtually for story time, conversation, and help with schoolwork and activities. So that's what we do. We want to reconnect generations because we believe that reweaving the fabrics of that village idea globally will help us solve a lot of the societal issues that we deal with right now. And fun fact is I was born and raised in Transylvania by my grandparents, hence my...
You were raised by your grandparents.
I was raised by my grandparents, yeah, in Transylvania, Romania. So yeah, I'm not a vampire, sorry, but I get that question. And thank you so much for having me here. I absolutely love joining these conversations.
Thank you. We got such a kick when you were on last time, and we had a follow-up conversation, and we really connected with that. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Dwayne Allen Thomas sounds like an actor, but he's actually a lawyer. We can't hear you, Dwayne.
The fact that you couldn't hear me killed every single one of those jokes I told. Let's see. I've decided to turn off the virtual background because you can't see through me. And other things, besides being a lawyer, I do write sometimes. I write for Psychology Today. I've started a bar exam tutoring program, and I do that every once in a while as well. And that's going to be it because I'm still having video problems.
And people have heard this. Dwayne and I, he was my first friend at a conference where we met. And because it was our first time attending the conference, our name tags were different colors. So you can tell who the rookies were. And so those of us with those blue tags just connected to each other. That was that common link that we had. Yeah. Dr. Susan, who was quoted this week for the comments she made last week. She's a social media maven this week.
You know, it was just so wonderful to see that people out there are appreciating this and really learning things and quoting it. It's what we're saying is noteworthy. And that's like, I was so touched. And I wrote a thank you earlier today. I'm not really a LinkedIn person, but I'm getting better at it. So thank you so much. And whoever wrote that, and I'm sorry for the late response. So I'm Dr. Susan Bernstone, and I actually have spent my career helping to transform lives, and I do this in many different ways. I'm a therapist, psychotherapist, family therapist. I've had an independent practice. I've worked in agencies, and I'm also, my latest thing that I'm doing is forming a group actually for people that is a really safe and interesting place and community. It's a therapeutic community it's going to be for both women and men. I think initially we're starting it for women, but it's really for high achievers and people that are really suffering, but they look like they're great on the outside, how we talked about imposter syndrome. So it's really a group for people who are dealing with those kinds of issues. What I also do is I am a television producer and host. And I transform lives using the platform. And Janice, when you were saying how you just love to talk to people and hear about their story, well, when I meet people, I just want to get them in a studio or now in Zoom and tell their story. on my television talk show. So I've like met people, the guy giving out the tickets in the movie theater when we used to go to the movies. Remember those days? I like find out information like, oh my goodness, can you be on my show? So I find everybody's stories really interesting. And then I do conversations and tell their stories. And the other thing that I'm really happy to be involved with is I'm producing a show for the Mentor Project. And I am having conversations with mentors and talking about really neat stuff and getting it out there to people and kids that would not normally have access to an unbelievable array of mentors as well as information. And we're starting in Brooklyn, New York, where I am, and our goal is to go really across the entire country. So I'm excited, and Debbie's on the call, and thank you, Debbie, and everybody else for that. And for many of you that are going to be on or have been on as well. And thank you, Ruth, so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Now off to California, Jana Marie Tutalman. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank goodness. I'm on a different computer, so I had to get it all figured out. Thank you, Ruthie, for having me. I've been watching. I'm so excited about this. I'm thrilled that you're doing something like this. As you and I both know, as we were mentors for most of our adult life, right? We have mentored hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students. And now we're moving into, both of us, a new category of working with leadership. So what I'm doing is considering myself a catalyst for clarity. And I'm working with entrepreneur women. I mean, I do, like she just said, I work with men too, but mostly I'm setting this up for women who are in leadership or entrepreneurship who are struggling. And what I've found in my research last couple of years since I retired from the university after 38 years is when people are really struggling, what they're struggling with is their core values, their guiding principles, and their convictions. And they're not aligned with them. They're doing things completely out of alignment with what they really believe. And that's why they're struggling and why they're not happy. So I'm working with women in leadership on that particular topic. And I have a technique called the Crystal Clear technique to get them clarity on exactly what it is they want, how they can get it, and get them there. So I'm the guide and the mentor that helps them get to that place.
I love it. And I've known Jana for, God, almost 25 years. So we ran programs, we were actually competitors. And we turned that competition into friendship. So we decided, while the programs were competitors, the people running them were actually friends. So that's how that blossomed, which was great.
Right.
Now let us stay in California. Liana, hello.
Hi, how are you? I'm so excited to be here. This is such a big group. Look at what you've created.
So excited to have you.
Debbie, look, Debbie and Ruth, look at what you've created. This is fantastic. So, what am I doing? I'm starting something that has been, that I've been going pregnant with for a very, very long time. And Debbie, had it not been for you and this community, this birthing would have most probably happened in another few years from now. And now it's happening on Sunday. So I'm a leadership coach. I'm an image therapist. So I believe that the way we present ourselves in our second skin, our clothing, really has a lot to do with what's happening on the inside of who we are. And I've been doing this for about 40 years. I do it in 4 or 5 languages all over the world. And I've been mentoring a lot on a code that we all have. So Jen was talking about the values that we carry and, the standards that we live by. And I've always recognized there's a code by which people who thrive rather than survive, but which they live by, but they are not always aware of it. It's like the water that they swim in. So we swim in a certain kind of water, which we're not unaware of. And then I tried to crystallize it out. And one of the things that I've done for many years is embodiment work with Aikido and Aikido and the samurais live by a certain code. So I'm now taking the 12th century samurai code, the Bushido code, and the Wonder Woman code, and I'm putting them together. And this weekend on Sunday, I'm presenting it in a conversation on Zoom, and I'm so excited about it because I want to take people from warrior, which connotes that you are actually needing an armor and you're going to war, to Wonder Woman, to taking it, this is who I am. These are my assets. These are the things that I'm not so good at, and just showing up in all your authenticity. And I'm so excited. So if you guys want to join, come, let us know. We'll tell you, we'll give you the link. It's going to be on LinkedIn. So it's super excited because this is also going into the Middle East, all over Jordan and Egypt. And yes. Wow. And so I'll say more about that. Yeah. It's awesome. Very excited. Very awesome. Exciting.
Now I see another Californian, I think she's still in California, who's super excited, Pamela O'Leary.
Hi, I am in San Mateo, California. I just quick intro, I guess. Yeah.
Yep.
I work at Korn Ferry doing diversity and inclusion work, and I'm writing a book about my empowerment journey and how I've learned to love myself. My entire career has been dedicated to empowering women in underrepresented communities, and I've been struggling with how to empower myself in doing that work. So happy to be here.
Thank you. And now I think we have another Californian. Where's Susie Katz? Hey, Susie.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Sheltering in Bodega Bay, California. That's what they call it. It's 30-mile-an-hour winds up there right now, gusting up to 40. I'm actually in Bodega Bay. I'm a photographer, and I spend most of my time around my educational nonprofit called Photo Wings, which I've discussed in this group. I know most of you here. And we utilize photography to help teach people how to think. We have a lot of interesting partnerships around the world.
And Susie she's had a TED Talk, and she has the most incredible photos I have ever seen, bar none. Incredible. Neil.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, Neil.
I'm Neil Cummins. I'm an astronomer, astrophysicist, and my latest effort is to get young people interested in science. And this may sound a little bit strange, which it is, but the way we're doing that is we're using, I wrote several books based on asking what-if questions, like what if the moon didn't exist? Or what if the Earth had two moons? I create alternative worlds that are physically plausible, but slightly different than ours. And what I'm trying to do now is get young people interested in asking those kinds of questions and exploring the answers. You ready for this? Using Minecraft. And so we are, with a collaborator at the University of Illinois, we are creating these alternative worlds in Minecraft and encouraging, young people, shall we say, Minecraft players, to explore them and see how they're different from our world. And we'll see what happens.
And that partnership was based on a relationship that developed at a conference I remember you mentioned last time.
That's right. And it actually came from Renaissance. Nice.
Well, if we're going to talk about out of this world, then that's a natural progression to Dr. Charlie Camarda. Hey, Charlie.
Hey, how you doing, Ruth? I had such trouble getting in on my computer for some reason. Outlook was messing me up. So I'm on my phone.
Well, you can get to the moon, but you can't get on Zoom, huh?
Yeah, right. Well, not tonight. I was on all day, but I wasn't able. But I'm also watching, Elon Musk did a fantastic job. And so in the background, I have Elon Musk is, they're trying to launch their Starship Hopper. They're going to do a little hop test in Boca Chica, Texas.
Well, tell everyone who you are, Charlie, and why you're so obsessed with watching Elon Musk.
Well, I thought they knew me. I thought this crew knew me.
Most people know you, but we're on Facebook Live and it's being recorded and people all over the world are watching.
Okay. I'm a retired astronaut. I worked at NASA my whole life for about 46 years. I flew in 2005. We were the first launch after the Columbia accident. And now I spend most of my time doing a little consulting, writing books, and I have a nonprofit at the Epic Education Foundation, trying to transform the way we educate our young people and trying to democratize education, make it available, affordable for all students everywhere.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
And I'm glad you're back on Earth with us.
I'm back.
Now, we can't talk about educating young people without talking to Hannah Halper. Hi, Hannah.
Hi, everybody. I'm an early childhood educator, and I am certified in mindfulness education, and I actually have been mentoring my students as my Head Start students as they progress through the system, and I've developed relationships with their parents at an early age and with them, and so it's been mentoring more one-to-one. And I just this summer I've been in the pottery studio. It opened up social distancing, so I've been making a lot of vessels and bowls, and I actually just came back from a very small writing workshop in New Hampshire with Joyce Maynard, and all outside, socially distanced, and because I'm beginning to write a book about my mother, who was a ceramic artist. So lots going on.
Nice. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Dr. Bruce Y. Lee.
Yes, I've never been anywhere near space. I'm a big fan of the Mentor Project, and I'm a big fan of your show, Ruth, as well as Dr. Bernstone's show as well, and a lot of the work of all the people on this currently on right now. So I always learn a lot when I'm a professor, journalist, computer modeler, and public health person.
That is the most that's the simplest introduction I've ever heard for someone who does what you do. Can you expand a little bit on what you're doing and what you do?
So I guess I do. I cover health and healthcare and science for Forbes. So I write a lot about medicine, health issues. I also run a center that does computer modeling work. So we help address different types of global health and public health issues by running computer simulations, helping decision makers make decisions. And I also teach as well.
Wow, that's great. And I highly encourage you to read his Forbes articles on COVID. They are fantastic. Next, Sarah. You're on mute. There you go.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Such a joy and a pleasure to be spending some time with you. I'm Sarah Milby. Ruth, thank you so much for inviting me to join. I am an entrepreneur, and I currently run a company called Valor Performance. I started the company in 2016, and we do leadership and performance coaching, all delivered through technology. So we're all virtual. It's a technology-enabled company. We work with technology and software companies, predominantly managers, executives, high potentials. We work with financial services companies, and now emerging more into healthcare, working with physicians, giving them the leadership development, professional development that they so crave. So it is an honor to be here, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Now, why don't you tell everyone who some of your coaches are, the types of people? Because that fits in with this group very well.
Good point. So 50% of our coaches are Olympians and pro athletes who then go through what we call Valor Academy, which is our training program for them to become certified in coaching. And then the other 50% have advanced degrees, PhD, masters in performance psychology and related fields. And we're doing more with a lot of our clients now. We're doing more organizational development and design, which is also really exciting. So we're working with individuals in high performance routines, with one-on-one coaching, high performance processes and systems, and then also cultures. So.
Fantastic. Sarah, you and Charlie need to chat offline because he works a lot with high performance teams. And the way go ahead.
I could use a coach though.
So
Symbiotic
the way Sarah and I met, so I write for Forbes as well, and I interview high achievers and elite high achievers. Those are who I study. And I actually interviewed an Olympic champion who I later found out was a coach for Valor, and he introduced me to Sarah, and that's just how the whole thing snowballed. So it's all about developing those relationships. Now, I'm hoping he's still staying awake because he is pulling another all-nighter for us straight from the UK. Andy.
Good morning. I have actually, Sarah, I've just been the hardest thing about doing these is bridging the gap between about 10 o'clock at night when I'm normally winding down and 1 o'clock in the morning when I join you guys. And so tonight I decided to do some podcast editing because I'm launching my podcast in a couple of weeks. So I was editing an interview I did with an Olympic bronze medalist who's gone into executive coaching, funnily enough. So
if you need any more, Sarah's got a whole bank of them.
I was just going to say, that
absolutely.
sounds very interesting.
Well, I've known Goldie for quite a few years. What a great name for an Olympic medalist, Goldie. Unfortunately, it was a bronze, but I met her when I ran a session for the British Athletes Commission on the importance of networks and relationships when you take your career outside sports when you retire. But because it wasn't so much about her medal, in 2014, she was the Team GB captain in the European Championships. And we had just the most amazing championships, won record number of medals. And she was famous for giving a speech to all of the athletes that really inspired them on. And I wanted to know how you take a group of, and Ruth, this will really fit into your your area with high performance, how you take a group of high performing individuals and make them a team. Because when you look at these great athletics teams, it's the team performances. You know, the Brits, we're a small country, but we excel, above our weight. We punch above our weight in athletics, and particularly when you look at relay, for example, which is a team sport, but you take a team of individual performers and you get them to work together. So that was part of my goal with that interview. So as soon as you said that, I thought it was quite funny timing with having edited that tonight.
Now tell us what you do when you're not up at 1 a.m.
When I'm not up at 1 a.m. So I'm an expert in professional relationship strategy.
Now you see why he's here?
And now you see why I'm here and why I've agreed to come back again this week. I've been involved in networking and professional relationships for 21 years now. Ran a business network for the first 7 or 8 of those. Since then, I'm a speaker, speak all over the world. I'm on the board of the Professional Speaking Association in the UK, and I'm one of the, 26 recipients of our Award of Excellence. I mentor, and obviously with the changes we're experiencing now, a lot of my focus is shifting to mentoring people individually, and my mentoring clients are global as well. And an author. We talked last week about my 4th book, which came out in paperback about 3 weeks ago and came out at the end of May, written in lockdown, Connected Leadership. And Ruth just received a draft today of my 5th book, which has gone off to the publisher today as well, called Just Ask, which is all about vulnerability and the importance of asking for help.
Good luck with those. We can't wait. Now you're our resident expert on this, so you're gonna chime in if we're saying something that's wrong. Charlie, can you hear us? Charlie?
Yep, there we go.
So, Charlie, you've spoken many times. We've been on many Zooms for these different programs we're on together. Am I bothering Elon Musk?
No. I think they've scrubbed. I'm sorry.
You've spoken before about your Friends of Charlie network. Yes. Can you talk about that, because I think that's so apropos for this discussion?
Yes. I'm writing a book, only I'm not near as far along as the other folks on the line here in my writing.
Imposter syndrome, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm an ADD adult. And so, but I'm writing a book on high performing teams, and throughout my career, I flew after the accident, and so I watched how we failed miserably. And when we try to understand these problems, when you have these very complex technical problems, there's no deterministic solution. And so how do you create a network of people and make sure the information gets passed to all the right people in a team of teams kind of way, to make sure that the right people have inputs at the right time? And so a lot of my success is because I've been at NASA so long and worked with such a large group of people, that my close friends that are on the Friends of Charlie network and my colleagues that I use are these subject matter experts that are not only the people with the know-how, but knowing these people, knowing their integrity, their willingness to speak up when they see something wrong, be able to criticize people, work in teams in a psychologically safe way, and people that'll tell you that they don't know something when they don't know something, and point you to the right people. And so creating those right networks. And so what we're trying to do is see if we can create a psychosocial ecosystem where you're able to get to just the right person. If some of the folks on the line probably have read the book Team of Teams, Stanley McChrystal basically talks about changing the way we fight the enemy in Afghanistan and Iraq, and how he went about doing that using this Team of Teams approach. Well, we do something very similar on the technical side of the house. And so that's what I spend my spare time in when I'm not doing education stuff.
Nice. Now, Jana, can you hear us? So Jana and I would go, we would be at the same conferences, and often we'd have to recruit the next generation of physician scientists. We were constantly looking for diamonds in the rough. And Jana has this skill. I wish we could just bottle it up, because she can talk to anybody about anything and make them feel like they are the most important person in the room. And every time I would go to these events, I said, I need to put my Jana face on, because I really needed to embody her. And I'm an extrovert, but I needed to embody her to be able to constantly do that, because she is the master. What's your secret sauce, Jana? Oh, you're on mute, Jana, you're on mute. Debbie, are you able to unmute her? Oh, did she just disappear? She shut her video off. I'm hoping she could join us.
It's on her end. Sorry.
Okay. I see she got her sound on. Jana? No, lost it again.
I don't know where Hello?
You could do it, Jana. You can do it.
Jana, if you're on your phone, just swipe left. If you're it seems like you're on a phone. When you swipe, it'll take you away from the camera.
Jana, we'll get back to you, okay? We'll get back to you. Sarah, you're on? Tell us how you cultivated this group of incredible coaches. Jana, we'll get back to you. Sarah, how you got this group of incredible coaches and how you pulled them together. And you essentially built this company in 4 years, and we're in the middle of the pandemic, and you have these big name clients and big name coaches. How did you manage to do all that?
One step at a time, one conversation at a time. For me, I'm just very curious about people. I'm curious, end of sentence. And so I genuinely started by just asking a lot of questions because of just my hunger to learn and understand. So it was as simple as, for me, I had personal experience as a athlete where I was connected to a performance coach who gave me a lot of the mental skills that then I learned as I worked in all sectors were very translatable and appropriate and vital, frankly. And so for me, it was just going to a couple coaches who have worked with top athletes and asking them, what about applying this into corporate? And it was just from a place of seeking to understand. And then it started to kind of build upon that. The other thing that I'd say is crucial in the story of how I started the company was also because of the curiosity, and I'd end up hearing about their story and what they were currently working on. And just instead of thinking about it as what they could do for me, I came from a place of how I could help them. So there's so many examples of individuals where it started by me saying, you know who you should talk to? Oh my gosh, I have something that's right up your alley, with no ask in mind. It was just seeding and building those relationships. And honestly, I think about some of our clients now, I take business very personally. I mean, I'm a founder, so maybe that's normal, but these are people that I want in my life, whether Valor and their company's partnership exists or not. We just have a strong foundation of trust. And I think that's part of how it all began, was just the mutual respect and trying to help one another.
I love that. And that's a lot of what Susan was saying last week as well. Love it. Jana, we're good?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you and we can see you. Can you share your secret sauce with us?
Well, after that wonderful introduction and just disappearing into the ethers, sorry, I'm not on my own computer. My secret sauce, I don't know that there's a secret to it. Everyone I meet and everyone I stand in front of, I have a feeling about them. And I think the way I resonate with people is that I'm present. I'm always present in the moment with that person. So, there's a lot of, people call it tricks and people write books about it, but I look people in the eye when I talk to them, and I talk to them from who I really am authentically. And I think that people feel back that they can be honest and open with me too. And everywhere I've gone, in fact, my entire life, no matter where I'm sitting, someone will come up and tell me their life story. And I've never really understood why, but it's some sort of magical thing. So that could be the secret sauce. I don't know. But when I met my husband, he said, will I ever be alone with you? Because we're not able to go anywhere without people ending up telling me their life story. So I think it has to do with being open, honest, looking people in the eye. I mean, very simple things, but apparently not so simple because a lot of people aren't taught those things. And so I think I come across and successfully that way because it's just who I am. And, that's what has led me to, into entrepreneurship after leaving higher education is I saw so much of people, looking up when they talk, we're in academics, right? So there's a whole lot of looking up and never looking you in the eye. And it was unusual in that situation because I would make people look me in the eye. And I developed relationships with them, even the scientists. No offense to scientists, but they're always looking this way or that way and never really at you. So I don't know if that's secret sauce or not, but I think my I vibrate at authentic and honest, open and loving, and tell me what's happening. And I think that works. It works for me. And I think that's why I've been successful with some clients.
Amen. And I have to tell you, I've walked around with Jana, and getting from the elevator to the front desk can take 45 minutes because she is talking to everyone who she meets along the way and really developing relationships. She'll remember their name the next time she sees them. So
can I just say, Ruth, that I think
yes.
there's a key word that relates to both what Sarah and Jana said without it actually being said. And I don't think we mentioned this word last week either, and that's listening.
Yes.
And I think that's where a lot of people fail. One of the things that I've talked about for years is that we always talk about listening to people. And in fact, we should listen for people. Because when we listen, Stephen Covey talks about active listening. And he says how our habit is to already be coming up with our response while the other person is still talking. And if you listen for people, you take yourself out of the equation. You actually tune into what they're saying, and you think about, sometimes they just want to be listened to. Sometimes you can help them and support them. And that's where Sarah gets the opportunity to make connections. It's where Jana gets the opportunity to make a real, genuine connection because she's tuning in. And I think that we didn't mention it last week, I don't think, but that word listen is perhaps one of the most underrated in relationship building.
How do you think we can do it better, Andy?
Practice. I'll be honest, it's one of my biggest weaknesses, this whole thing about taking yourself out of the equation, and I've known it for years. Classic example, if someone tells me about their holiday, I'll start telling them about when I went to that place. And I because we want to take things onto ground we're comfortable with, and the only way you get beyond that, if it's not natural to you, is practice. It's recognizing the voice in your head that's jumping in and quietening it, and I don't think there's an easy way around it if it's not natural to you. You just have to keep kicking yourself and pinching yourself every time you do it, and step by step you get better.
And Andy, as the expert in our room where it happens, in our Zoom room, what are some of the other things we could do better in order to develop meaningful relationships with people?
Well, I mean, taking the sort of the bigger picture rather than just the initial conversation, you asked me last week for a biggest mistake, and I shared sort of one example with you. The one that I didn't share, but I most commonly do, is follow up. This is where what most people don't do is actually follow up, and we invest time in interesting conversations. And, we might fire off an email and we think we've got our job ticked, but we've got to build that relationship. I talk about, when we use the term building a network, people immediately think of meeting more people, forgetting the people we already have in our network. And I've identified 7 stages of professional relationship. And the first stages are recognize, know, and like. And your networks are populated with people who are stuck at those levels. And when I do workshops, particularly since everything's on Zoom now and I'm using online polling, I show people my model and I say, where do you think your mean level of relationships is, and where do you think it should be? And the mean level on every exercise is between 3 and 3.5, which is around like. Between like and trust. The level people want to aim for is level 5, which is support. So 5 is support, 6 is advocate. And so rather than worrying about meeting more people, develop the relationships, nurture the relationships with people you've met. So when you first meet someone, follow up. Someone shared something on one of my workshops years ago, well over a decade ago. Never found the original source, so maybe by now I can claim it. But it was 24/7/30, and it works. You follow up after 24 hours, and some people think that looks needy, but I point out we're not talking about dating. You follow up again within a week, and you follow up again after 30 days. And it's 3 different two-way touch points. And if you can get those 3 touch points in, then you've built a wall around the outside of that circle, those 7 levels. And then you can focus on taking people through that journey. And it's just about little touch points. I saw this and I thought of you. A thank you card, a referral. You know, Sarah was talking about connecting people to others. All of those deepen and deepen and deepen the relationships. Allied with social media. Social media is so it's so underrated. It's a fantastic way to stay insight in mind. You know, it's easy to forget, Ruth. We met, 2 months ago, if that? And we accelerated our relationship very rapidly. And social media was a key part of that because we like and comment on each other's updates a lot.
That's true.
And it just keeps you front of mind all the time. So follow up and nurturing the relationship is key.
I like that. 24/7/30. I wrote that down. 24/7/30.
But just to follow up on what Andy was saying, if you want to listen more effectively, you can ask follow-up questions to whatever someone's talking about, because people tend to talk about themselves a lot. So if you're listening to what they're saying, there's might be something that causes some confusion, or something you're concerned about, or something you want to know more about, and you just keep asking questions to learn more about what it is they're talking about. However, the interesting thing is when you do that, you do sometimes have to inject yourself in the conversation, because a lot of times people won't ask you questions about you. And to the point where I have some friends who said that they don't know anything about me because they never bothered to ask me any questions about me.
I know you love hot dogs.
There was a famous study. I can't remember which book I read it in. I think it's been in a couple. Famous study where researchers sat one of their team next to a stranger on a flight, and they spent the whole flight asking questions about the passenger next to them. And then when that passenger got off, there was another member of the research team at the foot of the stairs, and they would say, "Excuse me, can we just ask you a few questions about your flight? Tell us about the person that sat next to you. What were they like? Were they interesting? Oh, they were fascinating. Tell us something about them." And the key was that researcher could not even tell that person their name. But because they'd asked about them the whole time, they thought they were fascinating. Dale Carnegie said the sweetest sound to any man is the sound of his own name. Absolutely key.
Yeah.
I agree with Andy. In fact, he posted something earlier today on LinkedIn, and I commented on it. I think most people don't follow up. And I had a situation where I wanted to meet a very prominent civil rights advocate. I mean, very, very famous. And I met him at a book signing, and he said, "Sure, contact him." And I would patiently and politely contact him, never responded. Follow up, never responded. And finally, on the fourth email, he responded. And he said he finally he set up the meeting, and he wrote the recommendation that I was hoping he would write. But he said he doesn't respond right away intentionally, because he's not going to invest his time to meet with someone or write a letter if they don't invest the time and really care. And he said, and I followed up to be persistent, but not to a point of annoying, which is a fine line. But I find most people, my mother used to have an expression like, follow through is important in tennis and golf, which is an old saying, but like, it's definitely true. And I find especially as an advocate, most people don't follow through. And I think most organizations, especially if you have an issue, they are hoping you don't follow through, right? Because they want the problem to go away. And so I had read an article about Metropolitan Museum of Art when it was run by Philippe de Montebello, that his goal was just to get problems go away. And so I called regularly and spoke to his secretary or assistant, Susie, and to a point she knew my name when I would call, and I recognized my voice. And they finally implemented the access just to make me go away, right? And sometimes that's what you have to do, and that's the FDA had the same thing. When I needed hearing aids to become compatible with the FCC, I kept calling. And I think sometimes most people are afraid to do that because it comes across as pushy, especially if you're a woman. As a man, nobody would say anything. And I think for a lot of women, it's very hard to not feel aggressive. But if you don't follow through, people can just put it at the bottom of the pile.
Right.
I always follow through.
You know, I first of all, Andy, hi, I'm Liana. I didn't meet you last week. Nice to meet you. Hi, Sarah. Sarah, I totally have curiosity as one of my highest values. And I love when you said that. And I think that for women, especially after what Janet's just said, you know, there's a fine line the way women show up in curiosity. Because when we show up in curiosity, we're so excited. I mean, Sarah, I could just see the smile on your face, and I can just imagine how we be when we're with someone. And what I've noticed is that because I move in and out of so many different cultures during the day, I move from German to Persian to Italian to American, and I notice that in different cultures, it's very, very different. And even in different cultures in the boardroom, being raised in Europe and now coming to America, I just find charm for a woman one of the most beautiful attributes, and having a charming conversation is much easier than being fierce. And so, and I don't know if you guys find that, or if you have anything that, you know, Andy, you're living in London? Are you living in London? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit to that? Because I do a lot of fierce feminine. And so feminine leadership, I believe, is truly missing, like from a place of grounding and wisdom from a space of the feminine wisdom. You know, I'm not saying to step back. I'm saying before you even get a seat at the table, feminine empowerment starts way before even walking into the boardroom. What are your thoughts on that?
I think when I look at the British media representation of women in business over the last 2 decades, it has consistently appalled me, because the way that we portray women in business on television is the bulldog. You know, it's got to be all about raw aggression, big shoulder pads. You know, we have The Apprentice here as well, unfortunately, and it's a classic example. The same with Dragon's Den, which I think it goes out a different name in the States, but they're always very hostile, aggressive role models. The female leaders I know in the UK, and I know a lot, I do a lot of work with women's networks, that's not them at all. They're assertive, absolutely, confident on the face of it. You know, men and women, I think we both wear a mask to a large degree. But that aggression is only there if needed. I think you talk about the inquisitive nature that women bring to the table. One of the interesting things I found is that when I speak to women's networks, I often share a model created by Dr. Ivan Meisner, who founded BNI. And Ivan wrote a book called Business Networking and Sex, No, Not That Kind, which is the title of the book, about gender differences. And he has a process he calls VCP, which he says is the process of a networking relationship. Visibility, then credibility, then profitability, and that's how you build it. And he says the difference between the genders is that what men do, and I often say masculine versus feminine rather than male versus female, because I think we all have a degree of each within us, and it's which comes out the stronger. But he says that the difference will be that the masculine energy or the man will go visibility, profitability. I see you. I see how you can help me. Let's deal with that and get to know each other afterwards. The feminine energy or the female will say visibility, then credibility. Let me get to know you first. Tell me about yourself. How are you? So what's bugging you? How can I help you? Now, are you really okay? And I do this on a flip chart, and I just do arrows, you know, to P and again and again and again. Sorry, to C for credibility, again and again. And I'm always nervous when I do it as a man talking to a room of women, but everyone's laughing because they recognize it. And I always say that neither approach is right, and we have to get that balance between the two approaches. And the masculine energy needs to rein itself in and get to invest in people and get to know people and have that inquisitive nature. The feminine energy needs to know when to ask for help and ask for themselves as well.
Have you read the book In a Different Voice?
No.
Gilligan? She talks a lot about this. She's a professor, I think, at NYU, and she talks about this different approaches between men and women, and it has a lot to do with the way we were raised, right? The women were raised, we were more social on the playground while the boys were playing competitive sports. At least my generation was like that. And that has a lot to do with how we grew up as adults. So.
And I look at this in the new book, Just Ask. I look at the gender differences when it comes to vulnerability and asking for help. What interested me is I thought that men would be a lot worse. And it comes up in certain cases, but actually both genders have an issue with it at different times and in different environments with that vulnerability. A woman in the workplace will find it a lot harder to be vulnerable because of the expectations. If she wants to succeed particularly in a male-dominated environment. But I interviewed Joe Swinson, who was the leader of the Liberal Democrats in the UK last year, our third political party. Well, I should say our fourth now, because the Scottish Nationalists have overtaken them. But Joe talked a lot about conditioning of boys and girls growing up and you know, the whole different thing. And she told me about her son, who was, I think, about 5 at the time, falling over and standing up and going, "Look, I didn't cry." You know, and this whole boys don't cry. And she and her husband looked at each other and said, "Well, where did he get that from? Because we didn't teach him that. You know, you should cry. You should let people know when you're hurt." But from somewhere, he's picked up at a very young age, boys don't cry. So there is conditioning, and it's very, very hard to get away from that. And of course, we carry, you know, I'm talking to a number of, you know, people who write for psychology today. So I have to be very careful about presenting myself as an expert on this stuff. But, you know, a lot of the things we talk about are carried in from childhood. Very much so.
I think it also has to do with your profession. Bruce, how often in your world do people say, "I don't know"?
Oh,
I know what Jan is thinking.
Bruce is muted. Bruce, unmute. Yeah, okay.
I couldn't tell whether you were saying Bruce or Ruth, but then I realized that you're the one Ruth here. So
I'm not talking to myself.
Talking to yourself, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's a big problem in the medical profession, and I frequently relate a story, and I'm going to try to raise it right now, where basically I got into an indirect debate with a cardiologist who was telling a medical resident that you should never, ever admit that you don't know something. Because I had told the medical resident, you know, no problem, you know, just if you don't know something, just admit it, even to the patient, because the patient wants you to be honest and wants that honest relationship. So it's better actually if you tell the patient, "Well, I'm not sure what's going on right now, but let's try to figure it out together." But I think one of the problems is in the profession, there's this attitude that, well, if you admit that you don't know something, then you'll lose credibility, and you'll lose sort of this, you know, idea that you're like up on the pedestal, or, you know, several rungs up the stairs. But I think that's a wrong attitude, because, you know, what people are looking for is they're looking for someone who's genuine and will be willing to tell them. Because if there's one slip up and you realize that, hey, that person doesn't really know what he or she is talking about, then you can't trust that person going forward. So we really need to change that, and we need to be more honest about our.
I think, Bruce, I think that's like at the center. That's like the fulcrum. What you're talking about is the fulcrum that we're in this 2020. we're all seeking authenticity. We're all seeking more connection. We're all seeking more deeper connection. I was talking to my 15-year-old granddaughter who says, you know, my friend, I want to talk to her, but she won't go deep. My 15-year-old granddaughter says that. And the truth is that our communities, our society, whether it's Western or Middle Eastern or Eastern, we haven't been created from childhood to be as vulnerable and as transparent and as intimate, to build intimacy into me, you see. How do we do this now in a corporation where we all have to look really good and we have to look really strong? And I think and I'm talking to a group of high achievers, so my call is always intimacy is the highest currency. Vulnerability is the highest currency. And even if I look bad, it doesn't matter, because for the greater good, if I can be a stand into the community and say, look, I really don't know how this is going to work, and I'm willing to try, there's a place where someone down the ladder can look at that and can say, man, if she can do it and she's as fierce as she is in leading communities, then maybe I can step into the unknown with her and we can all try to figure it out together. Because if we won't show our wounds and our broken wings, we're never going to be able to unfurl them and soar, ever.
Yep.
So,
you know,
right.
Liana, what you're talking about is so important in terms of knowing oneself also. And I wanted to relate that to an earlier topic. The question was, how do we become better listeners? And I've been thinking a lot about this because that was what I was doing for a long time. One of my jobs was to listen to people. And I too, wherever I go, people tell me their life story. But one of the things in terms of, you know, when Andy was talking about, you ask somebody a question and then you immediately go into, oh, well, I did this, you know, and how do you stop yourself? One of the things I think would be helpful and is helpful for people is if you think about what your own need is, because you might be an extrovert or an introvert or an ambivert, but like, what is your need in that moment? And to think about like, okay, what's my need? Do I need to get charged by talking about myself? Well, then I'm not going to be a really good listener if I have a need to talk. If I sat and listened to people all day and it was all about them, then at night, it's very hard for me to then do that because I want to talk about myself. So I'm very careful about, and I think about, okay, well, what is my need right now? So then what am I going to do? And to think about, okay, I want to learn about this person. So I want to go into listening mode to then shift. So it's my one of the pieces of advice I would say is to think about yourself and say, okay, where am I? What's my goal? And what's going to enable me to then do that? Because I don't think we do that enough. We don't stop and just reflect on ourselves. And that would be the one piece, is to think, one is, what is your goal? And are you in a place to do that? And then what do you need in order to do that and to make a plan?
It's really amazing, actually, if you talk about trying to make a shift listening, but it's actually incredible how much you learn when you listen to other folks. I mean, I learn every day from what people tell me. I remember when Liana told me that, hey, the reflection of the light behind you is blinding and piercing everyone's retina. You might want to cover that up. And then I covered that up, and then everyone remarked on that for the next several weeks. Hey, you're not blinding everyone with your with your light back there. So it's the type of thing
Bruce, I want you to blind people with your amazing charm and wisdom and knowledge and passion and your clarity. Oh my, and your humor. Wow! Not the damn light behind you.
So guys, we ran out of time again. And I wanted to hear about networking in Congress because, that's where it happens. So Brad, you're going to have to kick us off with that next time because we are running out of time and I don't want Andy to fall asleep on us. I do want to tell you, for those of you who did the adult learning with me, those of us who are accommodators, we have a harder time listening because we're so busy talking. So just remember that. So that's why when you see, sometimes people ask me why I'm so quiet. I literally work at it so that I can hear what other people are saying, because I know that could be an area of vulnerability for me, for a coach, right? So everyone, I want to end the discussion. If people want to hear more about you and hear of all the wonderful things that you are doing, where can they find you? Brad.
That short, the title.com.
Pitchforkpopulism.com. Great, thank you. Janice.
Hearingaccess.com.
Thank you. Maybe next time you'll tell everyone how you communicated with the President of the United States and the Queen of England, but that's for another time. Andy.
It's andylopata.com, Lopata. Thank you for inviting me back on. I won't be on every week, but I'd love to come back every now and then in the future and join you guys.
We would love to have you anytime you have insomnia. Susie Katz.
I posted the website in the chat. If you want to look at a little bit of my personal work, it's susankatzphotography.com. But I spend most of my time on my photowings.org website, and I made a couple videos. One is very personal, so you might want to look at it.
Can you tell everyone what your TED Talk is? Because they need to see those photos too.
Oh, well, it was TED University, and not all of those made it to the regular website. But I adapted it from the one that we did in our group. It was about how to be a better photographer, but the sneaky part was about caring about saving your photos because they may be lost to the elements, technology, or someone not caring. So that was kind of the theme of it.
Thank you. Neil. You got the coolest email.
Well, thank you. The email is galaxy@maine.edu. And the website is nfcummins.ag-sites. That's Authors Guild. ag-sites.net.
Thank you. Sarah.
First, let me just say, Susie, these photos are beautiful. Thank you for sharing your website. I just pulled it up and flagged it for me to dig into later. This was such a treat. Thank you all. I can be reached at sarah@valorperform.com. And then our website, if anyone's interested in checking out what we do at Valor Performance, it's just valorperform.com. So thank you for letting me join, Ruth. This was a treat.
Thanks, and I hope you'll come back again. Dwayne Allen Thomas, you just muted yourself.
Yeah, there was another phone ringing in the background. I'm sorry about that. All right, so you can reach me at hotdogs.com. Wait.
He's obsessed with hot dogs.
You can go with equalresults.com instead.
Thank you.
All right.
Donna.
Hi. You can find us at eldera.ai. And in particular, if you are over 60 and want to mentor cute kids from around the world, sign up. And I am Dana at eldera.ai.
Thanks. And I think last time we posted, and I'm hoping you got a lot of traffic because a lot of people were interested. And I know there are a lot of people, a lot of kids who are looking for mentors.
So we still have about 100 families now in waitlist. We went from 150 to 100, so we're doing good.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Liana.
You can reach me. The best way to connect with me is betheoffer.com. So when you go to betheoffer.com, you'll receive a little mini video series, which is based on my teachings, because I believe you are the masterpiece. Every human being is a masterpiece. And the video series shows you what my work is based on. It was created about 40 years ago, and it is more valid today than it was then.
And do you want to tell everyone about the Sunday event? Is that open?
Yeah, so the Sunday event is open to anyone who wants to join. It's a 3-hour deep dive into this conversation. And it's a pretty powerful concept. So I'm going to be posting it on LinkedIn just so that you have the exact link to go to. to sign up. We want to make sure that you're prepped and ready. We want to make sure that you get the emails because it's not going to be an open link. So just connect with me at Liana at imagetherapists with an S at the end.com. Liana, Liana at image, IMAGE, and then therapist, like the therapist, only plural with an S at the end.com.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Dr. Susan.
You can, reach me directly at Dr. Susan Bernstone at Gmail, SusanBirnestone at gmail.com, or you can just plug in my name in Google and lots of different things come up. My show, my website, it's lots of stuff. And I believe that Debbie's posting them on Facebook as well. So thank you again, Ruth. This has been great, everybody.
And Susan's the reason we're all so tight, because for all of us who met at this conference since the pandemic began, she's been hosting these Saturday night happy hours for us, which is where we really got to know each other. So thank you for that.
It's been great. Thank you all for coming. And it's been wonderful getting to know everybody.
Yes. Dr. Bruce Wiley.
So I've always wanted to email the galaxy, so now I can actually email the galaxy. Bruce Wiley, brucewiley.com, or you can Google Bruce Wiley, and the way to remember it is Bruce Lee, why not? If you do just Bruce Lee Google search, then you'll get lots of martial arts stuff. So include the Y.
Great. Thank you. Dr. Charlie Camarda.
Charles.j.camarda@gmail.com or Charlie at epiceducationfoundation.org.
Beautiful. Welcome back to Earth, Charlie. Jana Marie Tutalman.
Yes, it is crystalcleartechnique@gmail.com.
Beautiful. And I am ruthgotian.com. It's just my name, RuthGotian on all the social media platforms. It's just my name. And I do want to thank very, very much Dr. Debbie Heiser and the Mentor Project for hosting us each and every week and bringing this amazing group together. I hope all of you guys will join next week. We are going to continue the conversation. Maybe we'll talk about gratitude. What do you guys think? Should we touch on that?
Love it, love it, love it, love it.
All right, we'll kick off the conversation with gratitude. And then, as it happens every week, we don't even know where we're going to end up. We start with something, and then this is what happens when you bring these high achievers together from different industries. We just feed off each other and learn from each other. So everyone, thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you to all of our listeners and sponsors who've made this podcast possible. You can find out more about Dr. Ruth Gotian to optimize your success, live events held every Monday at 8 p.m. EST by going to our Facebook page at The Mentor Project. I am Jack Scott, the Chief Operations Officer here at The Mentor Project and the host of Meet Your Mentor, which posts every Wednesday. If you're interested in working with The Mentor Project, please reach out to us by going through our website at mentorproject.org. We look forward to seeing you back here next week to learn more about how you can optimize your success.